Welcome to the Calibre cast. We are here today continuing our Real Stories podcast, where we're learning from real professionals in architecture, engineering, and construction about careers in our industry today. So today we're here with Jordan. Jordan, will you introduce yourself and talk to us a little about what you do?
Yes, I'm Jordan Dillard. I'm originally from Austin, Texas. I went to a magnet middle school and high school, so I was into math and science, and then I wanted the exact opposite for college, so I went to Arizona State. I'd been in Denver for about 8 years, so it was like pretty much right after I graduated college. And I was first in mining, specifically gold mining, for about 2.5 years. So that was my first introduction to engineering. And then I switched over to land development in Calibre specifically a little over 5 years ago. Actually, I'm pretty close to 6 years at this point.
You know what's funny? My husband did a magnet program also. Yeah. I've never met another person that did a magnet program, and I had never heard of it before I met him.
I think they vary a lot. I liked mine a lot. What they did in Austin in particular is that they would take like an underprivileged school and then they would put a magnet program into it. And so the test scores would be risen and therefore the school like wouldn't get shut down. But it was like honestly a little bit segregated and kind of weird in that way too, because I was like in a neighborhood that obviously I wasn't from. Everyone came from all over the city to it. But it was one of the best schools in Austin, obviously. And just was a defining thing that I did.
How interesting. So one of my favorite things about you is that you're a really value-based person. You're very passionate. You know what you think and what you feel, and you're not afraid to speak up, which I think is really admirable. So I'm curious, how do you connect your values to what you do as an NG?
Well, thank you for saying that. I would also say just like passion and ambition in particular is probably like my biggest value. Definitely like what I look for in partners. And I think I've always been told that I'm really loud and really talkative and very bossy. And I think it just took me a long time to realize that like that's not necessarily a bad thing, even if people say it to you. And I definitely think that just comes up a lot whenever I'm working. It's just I care a lot about not necessarily being the best, but being the best version of myself, like trying not to make the same mistake again. Like trying my best, absolutely, to do that. Obviously, stuff happens. And then just like knowing that I am doing the absolute best that I can and that I'm constantly trying to learn.
I'm curious, how do you feel like that manifests in your life, that ambition?
I think it mainly manifests at work, to be totally honest with you. I think that I'm actually much calmer at home. Yeah, like it's almost like I need time to just like relax whenever I'm at home. And I do a lot less, but I've just always been really driven in my work life. It's just always been something.
Very driven, very ambitious. Yes, great. They're two great qualities.
What's funny is if you take a test about what Hogwarts house you are, I always pick the ambition one, and that tells you that you're at Slytherin, which always makes me so devastated. But every single time that I do it, I'm always like, oh my God. Yeah. So that is also what Slytherins are known for.
What do you wish you were?
I would say Ravenclaw, because they're like the smart kind of chill ones, but I don't think that that's probably how people would describe me. So I think people describe me as like intense.
So you've talked a little bit about your career and how you've gone from mining to what you're doing now at Calibre. What has been your most defining project and why?
It would definitely be the first project that I worked on whenever I started at Calibre, which is the South Platte River. It was not only where I got just like the majority of my land development design experience, but it's such a defining project for the city of Denver. It meant a lot to me to be like trusted to do the grading for that project. It's definitely the most defining project I've ever done and will always just be really important to me.
What did you like about doing?
I think how creative it was. Ben Murphy was the PM, and he's just so much more artistic than I am. And I think that I benefited so much from having someone show me how to do that. And it is truly something that I honestly struggle with. Like, I don't like doing drainage all the time because I find it to be not black and white. It's very gray. And every person that you talk to could have a different opinion, which I don't like because I personally hate being told that like my design sucks or other things. But yeah, it was just such a cool thing. His theory was that we could treat the grading like animation, and then I'm just the one who implemented it. And it's just one of the coolest grading projects that I've ever done.
That's interesting. I've never heard anybody say that before. treat it like animation.
Yeah. No, it was such a clever idea, and it was very complicated, and I had to spend obviously just like so many hours, but the grading just ended up being like so cool.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. What is a tool, book, or resource that changed the way you think?
This is probably something that everyone else would say, but I think my best resource is just older engineers in general. Yeah, I think sometimes whenever you're a younger engineer, you struggle a little bit because it kind of sucks to realize how much you don't know. And I think that I am just like finally hitting the point in my career now that I'm like 8 years in where like I'm just starting to feel more and more confident about like actually knowing some things. But it was really hard coming up, especially as someone who just like is super driven and ambitious and wants to climb the ladder, to be told constantly that like that you know nothing. And I think I just like have come to respect older engineers so much more. And then like as I started to train more people, I think it also just makes you realize like how much that tiny project that was so silly and you hated forever actually taught you just like some super random tidbit of information that you will now have forever. And yeah, I think older engineers have been extremely valuable.
Can you think of a tiny project that taught you something?
Yeah, our solar panel projects are like one of the first times that we've been proposing seed mixes. And Russ Burrows like reviewed that project and he was like, I found this custom seed mix from a student in the city of Pueblo. And I was like, this is so ridiculous. Like, I do not want to call this student to ask them about their seed mix. And anyways, I just look back on it now and I'm like, actually, that was like a very valuable thing that he said to me. Yeah. And I just am always excited to just like learn more.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's sort of this working with some humility.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I don't actually know everything. I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit something that I don't know or to call somebody about something that seems so tiny and insignificant. Mm-hmm. But then you do it and it changes your whole perspective, or it changes the project, or leaves you with something you didn't expect.
Yeah, it's so hard to admit sometimes that you don't know something too. And so I think, yeah, it's just almost like I've gotten more confident in my design experience at this point. So I'm so much more willing to ask about something. And then it's so much easier because I've done so much to just be like, actually, if I don't know this, it really is, something that is like, first of all, important to communicate to me so that I can train other people on it. But also, it probably isn't like me being a dummy. It's probably just a weird lapse in my knowledge. And that's not a huge deal. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad engineer.
Yeah. What have you learned being the one who now gets to train other people?
I think I try my best to be exactly what I would want to be as a manager. And that really manifests itself in like really specific ways. Yeah, I try to just like be grateful for the work that they're doing. I also try never to just like put them down in any way. It's really important to me that like, yeah, everyone is just like, hey, like, it isn't a huge deal that you don't know this. Or like, hey, I have actually already told you this. Like, it would be good if you did a little bit more research before you came to me. And then, yeah, sometimes they're just like, I love recognizing what is nitpicky about me and not actually telling them that it is like, once again, a lapse in their engineering. It is like, yeah, me wanting something to be written this way doesn't mean that you wrote it wrong. It just means that I have a preference. And since I am a little bit above you, I am going to write it this way. But I don't need to tell you that I did it because actually your writing was fine.
Yeah, I feel like that's been one of my favorite things that I've learned as well. It doesn't have to be the way that I think it needs to be if it's still right the way the other person did it.
Yeah.
Because so much comes down to just preference and thought process and whatever. And yeah, I also tend to want things the way that I want them and be very particular. And that is one thing you learn as you start managing people. They go, oh, this is actually right. And it's not how I would think of it. What do I do in this moment? And it's hard. It's an interesting lesson to learn. Sure.
Definitely.
Wonderful. Well, is there anything else that you want to say to wrap up our conversation today?
No, this has been fun.
Cool. Well, some really fun takeaways from Jordan today. So ambition and drive will get you there. Learn from people that you think differently from you. Work in humility and be grateful and build people up. All right. Thank you, Jordan, for your time.
Thank yous.